come back. You were here last time?
Yeah.
So just delete those 4 user accounts so we can start fresh. You got to see all of your user accounts. You got to cut this file, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want the commands to scroll off. Okay, so that right there is going to show you all your user accounts. Okay, so what does the -C switch do? Just a little bit of review. What does -C do? That is a comment field. That is the user's friendly name, like Brian Farris versus B Farris, user 1. What does the -D directory, the D do? The home directory of that user account. So normally everything is placed in home, but we're going to place some things in a subfolder under home. And what does the -S do? It defines the shell. And then at the end, you always have to put the sign-in name. Now, normally user accounts are lowercase. Not normally, they always should be lowercase. So if you go in the home folder and you see a uppercase name, this is not a convention. This is kind of this is a convention, not a requirement. But when you see that uppercase name, kind of think of that as a group of students. So when I go into the home folder and I see this uppercase, I know that that's not a user account name. I know that's going to be a folder of user accounts. So it's just, you know, if you had a domain or something, local users would be under home, domain users would be under that subfolder. So not only did that change Etsy password, Etsy shadow, Etsy group, and Etsy G shadow, those 4 files we talked about last time, it also changed Etsy home. So I'm going to look at this. I'm going to do a list, A long, all along, home, my domain, U1. So when I sign in as U1, I will have these files available. Every time I create a new user account, it creates these files for me. And I want to go a little bit into these files. Every time a user signs in, whether they're signing in using bash or shell, it runs Etsy profile. It sets up any environmental variables for every user account. Every user account runs that. If you boot and you're signing in using bash, this is a global, does functions and aliases. I'll explain what a function is. Here's a variable. It's kind of like an environmental variable. Last last name equal Ferris. Echo $ last name. That's a variable. And I just resolve that variable to a value by doing this. In the book they called it shell expansion. They expanded that into its actual value. So what if I did my IP? Sorry, function my IP IP adder rep for inet IP route rep for, I believe it's the uppercase default. So when I run IP, one second, I messed that up. Cat it's lowercase, sorry. Guys, I hit the up arrow and I can change it like this. Even when I typed it in like this. Every time it sees an enter, it replaces it with a semicolon. So it really creates one line. So now if I run IP adder, it runs all those commands. I mean, if my IP, it runs all those commands. So I label it as a function. I give it a name. I put in this little these two little brackets in case I want to pass it a parameter, pass it something. Then I give a list of commands. In this case, I have two commands. That's one, semicolon. That means it's the end of a command. That's the second one. That's the end of the function. So that's basically a function. So for your users, you can create any number of functions, and if you put them in bash RC, they would have them. Right now, I put this function in memory. If I reboot, the function's gone. It's not persistent. So if I want that function to be persistent, I have to put it in this file, so next time I boot, it loads it into memory again. If I want environmental variables to be persistent after reboot, I have to put them in this file. What's an alias? It's like a shortcut. So right now, instead of doing ls-l, I can do ll. That's an alias. Just type ll is the same as, so it's like a shortcut. You type a really long command every time, you can create an alias. Now, if I create an alias on my command line right now, and I reboot the machine, it's gone. But if I want it to be persistent, I have to add it in this file. So these are two very important things to know when you're setting up the user environment. This is for system-wide environmental variables. This is for system-wide aliases and functions. And this is for user specific. Let me show you that directory again. sorry, it's bash underscore profile. So this is for any environmental variables that are specific to that user account only. And this is for any aliases or functions only available to that user. These two files will be in each user's home folder. So if I want to do something for the entire system, I edit these two files. If I want to do something for one user, I would go to that user's profile and edit these two files. So let's go into I'm on a cat. I'm just going to look at my own file as root, bash rc. I'm going to look at roots.bashrc. And then roots bash underscore profile. Here is the beginning of profile. Here's the beginning of bash rc. I need to make this a little bigger for those people in the back row. It'll be hard for you to see it, but I need to do this. Every system does this slightly different. By default, if you are signing in with bash or shell, it runs this file automatically. And then, if you're signing in with bash, it then runs this file after you sign in. So, if I look at that file, what's the first thing that it does? As soon as I run, so this runs and executes fully. So this is launch first and finishes first. Launches first, finishes first. So what does it do after it reads that and executes it? It reads this and it executes it. So this is going to run second. As soon as this runs, it immediately looks and says, if you have a .bash rc file in your home directory, launch that. So before it does anything else in bash underscore profile, it immediately executes this. As soon as it's done executing this, it comes back and finishes this program. So it launches this first. It launches and executes this first. It launches this second. Immediately, it launches this. Then what happens when it runs that file? Now I'm going to back up to here. So here is that file. It sets some environmental variables and then test if there's an etc bash rc. If there is, it executes it. See that dot? That means execute that file. So it runs this file forth. Which is finished next? This is finished second. This will be finished third, and this will be finished fourth. So if I set something here, well, could it be overwritten? If I set an environmental variable for the system, can it be overwritten by any one user? Yes, because this is executed, it's loaded into memory, then this is executed next. It immediately executes this, immediately executes this, finishes this, comes back to here. So if I set an environmental variable here for the system, my user can override it. So at that point, it actually, it loads this, and finishes executing it. So would this be overwritten if I set an alias here? Can I override it here? Well, look, as soon as, which one is finished first? Which one finishes executing first? Right. So these are done before this is executed. So even though this is finished first, this most likely isn't going to overwrite because you're going to set the user-specific stuff, aliases and functions, and then it's going to run the system-wide aliases and functions. So most likely, if a user set an alias here, the system admin might be able to override it at this level. Not every Linux distribution is consistent like this. So you have to kind of look in all 4 files to see the order of execution. Because it could be very difficult to diagnose, well, I set something for you, but it's not actually set. Well, did you override it at the system level, or did you override it at the user level? What's important, guys, and this is all Red Hat boxes. What is important, though, guys, is what's in this file. System-wide environmental variables. What will be in this one? System-wide aliases and functions. What will be in this file? User environmental variables, user-specific aliases and functions. So what will be, if user 1 signs in, what will be executed? This is a trick question. Just set the profile. Why? This user is using shell, not bash. Bash is a version of born again shell. So shell will execute this, and bash will execute this. For bash, it'll execute all these files, but not shell. So be aware that if you set something up in bash RC and a student is signing in as shell, it won't have any effect. Just be aware that shell doesn't execute these scripts, only bash does. Most Linux distributions use bash anyways, but you'll come across some Unix distributions that don't. So just be aware of that. These are only executed by bash, not shell. Okay. The book doesn't do a really good job about explaining that, but it's something you need to know. You will spend a lot of time crafting user accounts. If you have a bunch of user accounts that are actually signing into the box, it's important that you know how to set up their profiles. So where did it get these files from? Okay, where did it get them? When I created user 1, where did it get these files from? Etsy. Okay, no, but let me go into that. If I cat Etsy profile, it's a file. It's not a directory. And look at it. What should be in here? System-wide environmental variables. This file has gotten so out of control, they tell you not to edit it anymore. They don't even want you to mess with this file anymore. They say if you want to create a system-wide environmental variables, you create a script and just drop it in that directory. And then at the very end of this, it says for I in, for all the files in this directory, execute them. So basically, if you want to make a change to Etsy profile, you don't make it a change to actually Etsy profile. What you do is you create your own script, drop it in this directory, and it will run automatically every time the user logs in. Just because this file is a beast anymore. It's too convoluted to even understand what's going on. Just look what it's doing. So they don't want you to mess with it anymore.
Even for someone as experienced as you?
Yeah, you shouldn't mess with it. But you not only do, I can't just go by my experience, maybe you're on the third shift. I don't want to do something that is so incomprehensible or something that I shouldn't be doing, and then when you get on the system, you don't know what I've done.
Oh,
okay. You gotta be aware that you're not the only user of that box. Okay, so you need to be conscious of that. If you shouldn't do something, don't do it. Okay, so that's how you edit Etsy profile. So Etsy profile is in a directory. Etsy profile is just really a file, essentially. But if I do a list-al Etsy scale, list-al Etsy scale. That is a skeleton directory. How many people have heard of the default user account in Windows? Every time you create a new user account in Windows, it goes to the default user account and copies all those settings. So it's the same concept with Etsy scale.
Are you referring to guest?
No, it's called the default user. Guest is just a guest login. So it's like a template. So every time you create a new user, what will be in that new user's home directory? It will have a desktop folder. It will have a video folder. It will have a downloads folder. That's how it knows what should be in there. So every time I create a new user account in Linux, how does it know what files or folders should be in that home directory? Well, what it does is it copies Etsy scale. So if you want to create a new user profile for sales users, we can create a custom shell directory. So everyone do this. So we're going to create a customized scale directory. So we're going to do copy recursively Etsy scale. Recursively means not only should you copy the folder, but copy everything in the folder. Etsy scale sales. So we copied our current scales directory, which is a template, to a new one called Etsy scale sales. And then we can customize this however we want. If we do a list al Etsy scale sales, you can see it's identical to Etsy scale. If we want to make a directory that every sales user account will have, So every time I create a new user account based on this skeleton, they'll have that sales data pool. They'll have some bash files, a Mozilla file, that's from Firefox, and they'll have a sales folder. Yep.
I don't know if this is part of the lesson, but you said that this scale file is like the default to create a user. How does the system know to, instead of using scale, to use this?
Yeah, that is part of the lesson.
Oh.
I'm going to show you in a minute how to do that. I'm trying to customize it again a little further. I'm just trying to recall something else we did. Okay, let's say we want to create two environmental variables that all sales users should have. No, that they need to execute, for whatever reason. So, guys, what will this do? My date equals sorry, this was wrong. I couldn't remember which brackets to use. So, guys, I set, what is this? An alias, a function, or a variable? It's a variable. All I'm doing is executing this command. So what will happen if this is executed? If I give this to all my users and they execute it, what will be in here?
Current date.
No, the date they logged in. Always the date they logged in. Because remember, it's not executed every time I evaluate it, it doesn't re-execute it. It's executed when I save the data. So what would the difference if I did this? If I created an alias called my date equals this is executed when I set the variable. This one is executed when the user executes it. So what would be better if you always want to have, let's say your end users want to know the date because they're salespeople, they need to know the date quickly. I could either do something like alias my time equals date plus percent sign R. And they could do my time as well. Let's just say they need to be able to get to the date and the time quickly. You don't want them to have to convert POSIX time and calculate everything from January 1st, 1970. You want a nice friendly date format. Well, I can create these. I've seen a lot of the times when I give a test, I see a user, and even people that I see in the industry, they have a confusion of what's better to use. Do I set an environmental variable or do I set it an alias? Keep in mind that environmental variable is only executed when you set the environmental variable. So whatever date it was at that time, that's when it's saved. So the next time that the user logged in, it would say the new date. But this is executed every time the user calls that alias. So if I want to show my end users the current date and time, I would do this as an alias, not as a function. So if I wanted to customize this for all sales users, and I want them to have these two aliases, what file would I put in there? What file would I put them in? Which one? .bashrc. If I do it in this file, everyone would get it. And I want to customize it just for my sales users. So I'm going to put it in this file in that directory. So guys, I'm going to vi etsy scale sales .bashrc. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to go to the end and I'm going to type alias my date equals date plus % x alias my time equals date plus % r After we've made two customizations to this skill. We did one, which was create a directory, and then we customized the .bashrc file. I'm going to. Are you still typing, Rebecca?
No, they won't go to the next one. Oh, present.
Okay, good. How do we go to the next line?
Okay, so insert
Okay, I'm going to go back and say this again.
one second, we should have let's
WQ would say quit.
be exact.
Oh. Okay. Now,
How do I go into insert mode below my current line?
now it's at the
Okay.
Lowercase o, hit lowercase o, and then start typing.
Now, how do I get out of insert mode?
You quit.
Escape. That brings me back to command mode, as this book calls it. Okay, so how do we save and exit? Colon WQ. Colon will bring you into,
Right quit.
colon will bring you to extended command mode, which is the bottom. And then WQ will right quit. So colon will bring me to the bottom, right quit. So we have two customizations for this particular skeleton. We have an additional folder, and we've customized bash RC. If we wanted to customize and create an environmental variable for that user, we could do that as well. So now we're going to create a new user account based on that skeleton. User add,
Where's escape?
okay, so user add, comment will be user 2. The home directory will be home. Now I'm going to specify, when you create this user account, I want it to be based on that skeleton directory. Guys, here's a little glitch. If you don't put, every time you use -K, you must use -M. The only way I can justify that is in their head they're thinking make the directory. So you need the dash, if you use the -K, use the -M. Otherwise it doesn't make the home directory. I don't know why. I didn't come up with this, I'm just delivering it. And then U2. So that created a user account name, the friendly name is user2, their home directory will be in that location. Guys, again, at the very end, I made sure I put a subdirectory. Don't just say my domain. It's going to be based on that skeleton directory. I want to actually make it, and the user account name will be U2. Guys, I'm going to set my password for U2. Echo password into the password command, retrieve from standard in for U2. And that will set my password. Okay, sorry guys, I forgot about YouTube. Only those two guys. listen, for you, after you do that, you might need to do userdel -r u2 and then rerun that command. See, here's the thing we're missing.
-r YouTube.
Yep. Do not execute this. No one executes this. Only those people like that.
That's
Now I want to sign in as U1. Did I set U1's password? Can I sign in with U1 without setting the password? Normally, account is disabled if you don't set the password. By default, it's disabled, no user can sign in. Unless I'm signing in from root, because root doesn't need a password. Root can just sign in. So, I can go into U1 and I'm going to try my time. Doesn't work. Now, I'm going to exit out of there, then sign in as U2 and try my time. It works. So now every time I create a new user account based on that Etsy scale directory, then those environmental variables will be set for those users. So I signed in as U1. I don't have access to that alias. I signed out of U1, then re-signed in as U2. And when I execute it, I have access to that alias. If I type the word alias, I can see I have two aliases there. Those are the two aliases we set with our customized.bashrc. Okay. I wouldn't bet money right now to see if any of you even understood what I talked about. Okay, so I'm going to exit here. We're going to take our first break, and then I'm going to have you do it again with another. I'm going to have you create a customized a customized scale for text, and then see if you can do that. So when we get back, I'm going to give you a little lab to create a customized skeleton directory for text, create a user account based on that skeleton directory. Okay, so let's take our first break and then we'll come back. You need to run and grab coffee.
That's what they
Did you create that character?
Can I verify that?
Just create one.
Make my domain.
MKD,
Yeah.
EI1,
My domain, right?
/home/.
Oh, so Yeah, both.
Bueno, so, lo que se está.
Okay, everything after this, I want you to do. So I want you to create a command called logs. So when they type this word logs, it should display the last 10 lines of var log messages and the last 10 lines of var log secure. 2 log files. Any event that happens in the system is logged in here. Anytime a user logged in, it's logged in here. Anytime a user attempted to log in but failed, it's logged in there. Bitcoin is just jumping.
Again?
It's coming back?
Yeah, it's up to 11,000.
How low did it drop?
It was like
3,500. You know, went from, down in the 800s all the way up to 19,000 and back down to 3,500. Now it's working its way back up.
If I can have a request, you were telling us last week, there was like a cheat sheet for BI stuff. Could you just, do you know anything else good that you would recommend looking off of?
Honestly, you can buy with all those. 90% of the time you're using one of those.
Everything else is fluff?
It's not fluff, it makes your life a little bit easier, but if you can get those, you'll be good.
Okay.
Maybe lowercase a, uppercase a. In this particular case, I'd be using a lowercase o.
In my, I was practicing Linux, and I remember when installing like a Plex kind of server, like I had to use GP, and I mean I just have a thing. I want to look up like what it is I'm doing so I can understand.
Delete the line. Are you talking about DD, the command?
Yeah, like I
Oh,
used it
DD.
while installing, and I'm like,
Oh,
hey, what
no,
is
this DD is different than that DD. What you're talking about is disk boot, copies of disk.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a VI command. This is a VI specific command, but there's a command also called DD that stands for disk boot.
Yeah, I'll try not to get them mixed up.
This class in the summer is not good. The attendance is, this class is supposed to be full.
People usually are on break.
Yeah, don't enroll in a class. No, this class is, there's no seats left in the class. And these are people that just skipped.
Oh.
What happens if I start making videos? People skip. I gotta stop making the videos so people attend class. No, and it's sad, but it's true. You know, it's every Saturday morning. It's just beep 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 beep. All these texts. I can't make it to class. I can't make it to class.
If I could come multiple times a week, I would.
Let me ask you this: how many people are confident what they need to do? Okay, what's the first thing you need to do? Okay. Okay, so guys, that gives us something to work with. I don't want to have to recreate all the files. It's easier to use my current scale, copy that over, it gives me something to work with. All my files are already there. Then, what's the next thing we need to do?
Then you have to edit that version C file
Okay,
in the skeleton text folder.
okay, so we have, okay, she already answered this, but are we going to create an alias, function, or variable?
So it loads automatically when the user logs in.
Right.
Function maybe.
A function, right, because I'm giving you two commands. So I'm giving you two commands. The easiest way to do that would be a function. So where are functions stored? Dot bash underscore profile or dot bash RC? So, so I'm going to go over here and do it. So I'm going to copy recursively Etsy scale to Etsy scale text. Then I'm going to VI. If you want to, you can list that. List long, all long, but I'm just going to edit it. I'm going to assume that it copied fine. Text dot bash RC. Guys, what will bring me to the end of the file quickly? Okay, that will bring me to the end of the file. Sorry. Sorry, I was wrong. Okay, so what will bring me in insert mode below my current line? So this is what I did I type $, brought me to the end of the file. I hit a lowercase o, that inserted a new line under my current line, put me on that line at the beginning in insert mode. So, to jump to the bottom of the file quickly, now if you were in Word or Notepad or Notepad++, what would you have to do? Scroll to the end, put your cursor at the end of the line, hit enter key. So this is, by typing those 3 characters, it gets you down there quickly. And after a while, you'll see that. So I'm just going to go out and just do it again. So I edit the file, $$O, and I'm there. Okay, so I would do function logs. I'm not passing any parameters, so I'm just going to leave that empty. Guys, I'm only putting those 2 spaces there. I want to do something else. Guys, where is the tell command located? See, if I say which in a command, it'll tell me where it's going to execute it from. So that tells me the location of the file. Guys, I can't guarantee you everyone has the same path. What's the path command used for? The path variable used for? Just like in Windows. You have a variable called path. I'm going to show you in Windows. I'm going to open up a command prompt. I'm going to echo $, path, $. When I run a command, Windows will look in every one of these directories for the command. That set, not there. Under Advanced System Settings, Environmental Variables, there's my path command. I have it, just like in Linux, I have a user-specific environmental variable, and then I have a system-wide set of environmental variables. It's set at both levels. So you just to be aware of that. So what we're doing right now is also done in Windows. So I can't guarantee you everyone has the same environmental variables as me. So they might have a different path variable, meaning when they try to execute tell, they might not be able to find it. So echo $path. So when I try to execute a command, it looks in these directories for that command. If it doesn't exist in one of those directories, it won't execute. So instead of relying on a path variable, when you're writing scripts, always use the fully qualified path. var log messages, and those 2 spaces are just for readability. Give me 1 second, let me let someone in next door.
Oh, you're not gonna find it online. I thought that was. Yeah, it was on the IT. I spoke with the other ones, like they did one.
How do I get out of insert mode?
That doesn't mean
Escape. And how do I get into extended command mode? Colon, and the commands I want to run are WQ.
I thought that's only available in VI.
I am in VI. How do I edit a file?
I'm sorry, I'm not used to seeing without the insert.
Can those two commands be separated with a
No, I'm gonna go out of here. I could do this. How do I go in insert mode at the end of my line? Which one of these?
A?
Shift A. I could do this. In this particular case, I wouldn't do this because, sorry, it would look kind of weird. Just because, you know, it's a function. I have multiple lines. I can,
Yeah.
you know. But yes, if I wanted to do it all in one line, I can separate the two commands with a semicolon.
But not a hyphen.
No. If you did a hyphen, it would assume that that was some sort of switch for tel. You know, like when I do user hat hyphen A, it would assume it was some sort of switch for tel. Okay, so I'm going to press out. I'm going to get out of insert mode by pressing escape. Go to extended command mode by pressing colon, then WQ. Or you can just hold down shift and do capital ZZ. That will do the same thing. Okay, so now I'm going to do do user 3. So user add, friendly name is user 3. Guys, up until this point, I've always enclosed it in quotes. Most people won't do that. They'll do this. Why do that instead of putting quotes around it? Well, because it's space. Well, why not just put the quotes? Why do this? Less typing. You know, it just scale Etsy scale text. Is this right?
Are you using time?
Gotta have that out.
Remember, if you use K, you have to use M. Set the password. I'm going to sign in as U3. Guys, we got a permission denied error because we're not allowed to read those files, but it still worked.
How can the root be denied?
I'm not root anymore. I signed in as U3. If I want to, I could do sudo and then do logs that way, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so it worked. So we customized this. Now if I signed in as U2, listen, what if I created a tech user account before I did the skeleton directory? Is it retroactive, is what I'm asking. No. No. So once you create the scale directory, any user accounts you create after that scale directory would have those customizations. Anything created before that wouldn't have the customizations.
And there's no way to force that for that user? No?
No, because the scale directory is only copied when you create the user account. For those old users, I'd have to manually go in and edit their file. But I could probably do it with a script that'll echo that line into those user accounts. Okay, I'm gonna exit out of here. I'm gonna go into user, just type user add. We're gonna look at all the switches. So far, guys, we've done M, K, S, and C. Oh, and D as well. Okay. Cat Etsy password. What is this? What is this first column? Username. What's the second column? Third column?
User ID,
User ID,
group ID.
group ID, friendly name, home directory, and the shell. In this particular case, this is a service account. We don't want that, no one logging in with that service account. There's a shell called no login. Okay, so now I want to talk about this. So I'm going to group add faculty. I just created a group called faculty. I'm going to bring this back up. I just created a group called faculty. Everyone do this. So I'm going to do user add, we'll comment. Guys, these can be, I can do, the order can be different. I can do M, K, Etsy, scale, text, comment, user, 4,
Did you misspell it first?
What did I misspell?
Before?
oh, yeah, no, I didn't do that. Sorry, guys. That E shouldn't be there. Doesn't really matter for this, but it should be there. Okay. So, guys, what I did was, I'm going to just remove that. User, del. Okay.
You couldn't have done user mod.
No, you can't, because I can't change the user account name in user mod. That's the only thing I can't change. And we're going to get the user mod.
Well, at least we don't have to delete them.
Okay. So I'm going to do, what I did was cat. Look, guys, I can do tel-n1 Etsy password. And only look at the last line, because I know it's the last user account I create. tel-n1 Etsy group. Sorry guys, I hit tab twice. Don't run this command. Do not run that. So there's my user account. So I created, I'm going to do 2. I created a user account called user4. my primary group, when I created that user account, is 1006, which is what? User 4. So if I don't specify a primary group, it creates one for me automatically with the same account as the username. And what I did was I added that user to a secondary group. Just think of a secondary group as just like Windows. I can be a member of as many secondary groups as I want, but I can only have one primary. So my primary group is user 4, and I added this user account to that group. Now look, here's my group name. How many columns do you see in this line right here? User 4. 4, but the fourth one's blank. So the first column is the group name. The second column is the password is encrypted in G-Shadow, if it exists. Normally the password for groups are maintained by the system. That is the group ID. So this group has a group ID of 1005. Then after this last column will be all the users that are a member of that group. Not the primary group, because primary groups are stored right here. My primary group is 106. Nowhere will you see in the Etsy group file who's using that as a primary. So this just means that in the faculty group, I have one member, U4. That's not going to be the primary group. It might be the primary group, but it doesn't mean that it is. So the fourth column is for members of that group. So if I did user mod uppercase G faculty U3, I can add U3 to that group. And I can now see that U4 and U3 are a member of that group. From experience, U3's primary group is in a group called U3. U4's primary group is a group called U4, which is not represented in the Etsy group file at all.
I got a question.
Yep.
So I did the exact same commands you're doing. However, okay, your first thing was like my second, like the second and first switch places. I don't know how to describe it on my end, but I'm just curious how it came to this result. You see what I mean?
Yeah, because you did it in different orders. Up here. Okay, see, look. You added the user account after you added the group account.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank
So let's create a group called group add text. Let's modify user 3. And add user 3 to that text group. So we created a group, added a user to the group. I'm going to look at the last 3 lines of Etsy group. So I can see the user 3 is a member of the text group. What other thing can I see?
All the other groups before.
It's no longer a member of user faculty. if I want to add a group, I can do it two ways. I can specify all the other groups that he's part of. So if you're going to just use the user mod command to add a user to a group, you either have to specify all the groups that he's in, plus the new one, or I'm going to type user add to look at all the switches. I'm going to scroll to the top. It's not there, guys. I'm going to go back to here. I just want to show you something. I can use AG to append. It's not in the documentation, but it is there. See, by using AG, it'll append. So I added user text. So that means at that point, user 3 was only in the text group. I wanted to add faculty. So I did AG, and it actually kept him in text, but also added him to faculty. Think of AG as append or add. But guys, it's not in here. You know, it's not in there. So just be aware of that. Honestly, I would probably stick with this command. Just create another group. User mod. No, sorry.
How come mine works without A?
It probably removed someone from another group.
I just have a different names for users.
Okay, that's fine.
It didn't remove anyone.
Checks. Because you added them to both groups. But if you only add them to one, it will remove them from the other. So do this. So now 4 is no longer a member of faculty.
Okay, so yeah, but that's the whole point. For if you use the uppercase G and user mod, at that point, it will only add them to that group and remove them from all others. So basically, every time you wanted to add a user to a group, you'd have to know every group that they're currently in. If you want to use the lowercase g, the uppercase G. So in this case, use AG and it'll just append. But that's a lot of typing right there. So I'm going to do group add. I'm going to do admins. Create a group called admins. G password, WA, so instead of doing AG to add them to a group, I can use the command gpassword with a lowercase a and basically saying user 3, add them to the admins group. That's a better way to do it than to use the user mod. And I'll show you why. So I'm going to do gpassword, an uppercase A, U4. now I made you four an administrator of the admins group. So cat, or I'm just going to do tell Etsy G Shadow. Tell Etsy G Shadow. How many columns do we have? In this case, 4. So I have the admins group because there's no semicolon at the end. So I have that's the group name. Bang mark means that there's no password set. This is a group file. There's no password set. The third column is the group administrator. You know, if I have a manager of the text department, I don't want to make him root. But I want him to be able to add users to the group that he controls without having me getting involved. So I can assign an admin to a group. And at that point, that particular user can use the G password command to add users to the group. So first column is the group name, second column is the password. This particular case is not set. The third column is the group administrator, and the fourth column will be any users that are part of that group. So every time it adds a user to a group, as a secondary group, it adds in both the Etsy group and Etsy G Shadow. So I'm going to sign in as user 4. SU-U4. G password -A. I'm going to add user 2 to the admins group. Okay, so user mod to maintain group memberships is probably not the way to go, though most books do it that way. Most books will talk about user mod to modify. Some might not even have an A switch in the book. But be aware that even though the A isn't in the documentation, it is there. A means append. So A uppercase G, you can use that to add a user to a group. A better way to do it would be the G shadow, the G password command. Lowercase a means add that user to the group. Uppercase A means make that user an admin for that group. So once a user is an admin, that user doesn't have to have administrative rights to the system just to add a user to a group.
Question.
Yes.
In the list of the G Shadow, there's the third user student has a double bang in one of the columns. What is that?
Let me look.
Second one, I'm sorry.
Because that password is set.
So one bang is no password.
One bang is, sorry, I believe the password is maintained by the system. 2 bangs is not set. Okay. So let's talk about so user add, user 5, uppercase G is faculty, and text uppercase G adds you to groups, as secondary groups. Lowercase g sets that group as your primary.
There we go.
So I'm going to sign in as user 5. Touch some file.txt. List all. So now, if you look, you notice that the user owner is U5. Who's the group owner? My primary group. So that's the purpose of the primary group. Every time you create a new file or a folder, that primary group is the group owner of that file or folder. Now, if any file was owned by text, if the group owner of a file or folder was owned by text, I would have that permission. I haven't gone into permission yet. So if any user is a secondary member of the admin's group, or the primary group is admins, they have rights to that particular file that user 5 created. Okay, what does the -C do? I'm going to go over all the switches again, all the main ones. Guys, I'm going to type exit, user add. Guys, if I use this password command, it encrypts the password in this file, in etc password. You don't want to use this. This does not set the password. This goes back to an older form of the password, where the password is actually stored in etc password. Before I go over the switches, let's do this again. What's in this file? These are the 4 files that we mess with when we create a user account. And we also mess with this directory, which is where we create home folders. What's in this file? User account name, mainly. What's in this file? Password. What's in this one? Group and group membership. What's the difference between this file and GShadow? This is group and group membership plus group administrator. This file holds the administrator where this one doesn't. Okay, so keep in mind that they contain the same data, except for this one also contains group membership. I want to show you that. I'm going to do tel-n3 etc group tel-n3 etc g shadow. And of course there's a password too. This third column in etc group holds the group ID. This third column in etc g shadow holds the group administrator. Guys, creating user accounts is an art form. It takes a while to get creating user accounts. Guys, and right now we're just doing them on a local system. I don't even want to explain to you how it gets exponentially more difficult once you're dealing with like an Active Directory. situation. If I wanted to pull up both local user accounts and Active Directory accounts, I could do get ent users, get ent password, get entire. That means get entire. Local users and domain users. I could do groups, get entire groups from any database I can log in. Okay, so user account, the password, and some other things I'm going to go into. Group ID, group membership. Group administrator, group membership. Cat, Etsy, password. I want you to change user 1's shell from bin shell to bin bash. How would you do it? I want to change their shell from bin shell, what it's currently at now, to bin bash. You guys know this one. What command would I use to modify
User mod 01-S.
bin bash u1? Cat, Etsy, password, grep for u1. So now I've changed the shell. So any of the switches that I have available in user add, I also have available in user mod. User mod uses the same exact switches. So change. Guys, I'm going to hit CH, tab. We say change owner, change mod, change memory, change group, change, I don't know what that is, change shell, change root. We don't say chmod or tone. It's change shell. Instead of running that command I just did, I could have typed change shell and I could have put the option. So I could have did change shell -s bin bash. I'm going to change it back to sh for u1. So there's other commands, and these guys, a lot of people don't use these anymore. They really use user mod, but the old school Unix people will go back to the change commands, because we didn't have that user add command. If we wanted to create a user back in the day, you modified these files with the VI. Oh, could I edit this file with VI? Look, I'm going to hit Shift-A, bash. I can easily edit this file with VI. Would be no problem. But the problem is that I've created, when I opened that file up with VI, I locked it. So if anyone else tried to add a user account, they'd get some sort of error. If you're going to edit Etsy password manually, you can't lock it. I can use a special version of VI to edit password files that will not lock it. So if other people are adding user accounts at the same time as me, that would be. So you could use VI to edit those files. All these files are just text files. So be aware that there's one way to do it. There might be 10 other ways to do it. If I wanted to change a shell, I would be able to use change shell or use a mod. If I wanted to change group membership, your secondary groups, I could use user mod in uppercase G or do G password command. Either will work. I'm gonna open up Wikipedia real quick, because some things I didn't talk about were in Etsy Shadow. I didn't talk about all the columns for Etsy Shadow. So I'm gonna do okay, this should be. I'm just going to show you Etsy Shadow. Cat Etsy Shadow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns in Etsy Shadow. I'm pulling this up because I don't remember all 9 columns. But I'm just going to go here and show you. First column, user account name, same as Etsy, password. Second column, password if it's encrypted. Some people change the password to asterisk to put, so disable the account. Probably not a good idea to do that. You can disable account by putting a bag mark in front of the user account. An old way to remove the password, if it was blank, they wouldn't have a password. I don't know why you want to do that, but they wouldn't have a password. So this is the password in the encryption format. The third column is the number of days since your password has changed in epoch time format. So for this particular case, it's been 10,063 days since January 1st, 1970, since your password has changed. The number of days the password may be changed. Listen, in Windows, the default is you can only change your password once a day. If you change it too much, people think that your account's being hacked or something. So the default is 1 day in Windows. You can make that same thing for Linux as well. So the number of days before you can change your password. 0 means anything. The number of days that your password must be changed. You can take the current epoch date, add 45 days, and that means that their password has to be changed in 45 days. The number of days to warn users of an expiring password. So in this case, it's 7. So basically, in 7 days from 45 days, it's going to say, hey, your password's about to expire, you need to change it. The number of days after the password expires if the account is disabled. So you can give someone like a soft, your password expired, but 3 days after that, that's when we'll lock you out. And the number of days since January 1st that the account has been disabled. How long can't they sign in? In the last column, they haven't configured yet. Okay, so guys, just to be more complete, I'm not going to quiz on this. Change, we can't modify any of those settings with the user mod command. We have to go to these old school commands to do it. So I'm going to do change age, --help. All that stuff can be done here. So if you want to change any of those settings in Etsy Shadow, it's done here. I'm not going to go into detail about this for any one account, but I can do change age, list, U1. And I can see a more friendly output. You know, if I want to change that they have to change their password to 45 days, I can do M. Guys, look at this. You put the login information at the end. I don't know if this is going to work. We'll see. You know, so it's 45 days before they have to change their password. So, guys, just be aware of this. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you a bunch of questions on creating user accounts. I just want to review what's in this file, the main thing. So just user accounts, primary group, secondary group, primary group, your shell, your home directory. What will be in this one? Password, and all of this information. What will be in this one? Group accounts, group ID, group membership. And what's in this one? Group, the group name, the admin for the group, and group membership. Okay, if I wanted to change the user shell, what would I use? Or change shell.
Yeah.
Change shell or use a mod. What if I wanted to change your secondary group membership? Your secondary group membership. I could do use a mod dash AG, A uppercase G, or I can use G password. What if I wanted to change your primary group? I wanted to change your primary group. Use your mod with the lowercase g. I don't need the A because I'm not appending. I can only have one primary group. What if I wanted to go old school? How would I do it? VI PW. If I just wanted to use a text editor, make sure you use the VI PW, not the regular VI, because VI locks the file. We talked about skeleton directory. What's the purpose of the skeleton directory? It's the file that is going to be in the user home folder. It's a skeleton directory. Okay, guys, I'm going to do one last thing. I'm going to cat Etsy group. And then we're done with chapter 5. Okay, Cat group. I'm in a Cat group grep for wheel. I don't know where they got this account from, but there's an account called wheel. Now I'm going to cat, Etsy, sudoers. Go to cat, Etsy, sudoers. So, this file configures the sudoer. You know, normally you SU space hyphen that signs it as root. But let's say you don't want to do that. You don't want to give other people root privileges. But you want them to be able to execute root commands. So what I can do is turn on the ability to do sudoers. Well, it's already turned on, but we don't have any users in the wheel group. So if you put a user in the wheel group, they'll be able to run all root commands. Here's the same thing, but without a password. Right now, if we add a user to the wheel group, they will be able to do sudo space in the command, and it would execute that command after they typed in their own password. So we know it was them. Because what happens when we walk away from our computer because I'm going to go get coffee? We log out? No. Well, you should, but who doesn't? Honestly. So it's going to force that if they run an admin command, it's going to force them to retype the password. If your users are really good and they lock the screen, or you have a good policy that locks the screen 1 minute of inactivity, then I'm not prompted with the password. That's commented out, so that's not in effect. Only this one is. So I'm going to add, let's just say, user 2, G password, U2 to the wheel group. Now I'm going to sign in as U2. So let's say I'm a normal user, I don't have root access, I want to be able to do some administrative command. So sudo var, tell and var log. I'm just going to look at the log file. Now I can type my password. So I added the user account to wheel group, and then I signed it as U2. Then I did sudo tell -n3 and give you the last 3 lines of our log messages, which, if you remember earlier, you have to be root to look at that file. And it gives you this little spill about, you know, we place a lot of trust in you. Don't make us regret it. And then it prompts me for my password, not root's password. So they know it was me who executed the command. Because when I did that, it logged that in Etsy's and var log secure. So it knows I just executed that command, and it recorded it. I have, I can choose, I'm now saying non-repudiation. You can't deny that you ran the command. And it showed me the last 3 entries in var log messages. So a little bit about sudo. Guys, there's a lot of stuff in chapter 5. And that's not even the tip of the iceberg on what we can do with user accounts. I'm going to give you, I haven't did the midterm yet. I'm still grading tests for session 2. I've got to finish that today. So I'm going to do that this weekend. I promise I'll put it out on D2L. It's going to be the pipe, redirect, grep, and user account stuff. So to practice with. So be aware of that. Read the book. Try to get your hands on the Linux keyboard to practice. Hopefully this will give you some tasks to practice with. So I'm just going to give you the task. what I want you to do, which is gonna be similar to something like this, and you're gonna give me the commands that you need to do to satisfy that task. Okay? Any questions? Okay, that's it for today. I recorded this. I'm gonna put this up on